unto that day of the battle. Go ahead and read on.
And the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished.
You know, you got people that's running over to the land. Jerusalem is not a good place to be. Not even now. And it's going to even be a worse place to be then when this come to pass here. But now, it said, now I'm going to gather all nations against Jerusalem battle. The houses will be taken, and the women will be ravished. Go ahead and read on.
And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city.
Go ahead.
Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle.
Now this is Jesus that we'll read. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as he fought in the day of battle. This is Jesus that we're reading about here. And if you haven't figured that out yet, wait till we read a couple more verses. So now, and then it said the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. Go ahead and read on.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
Well, that's where he left from, right?
That's right.
And the angel said that's where he's going to return to, right?
That's right.
So now when he returns, he's going to return in the midst of the battle. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as he fought in the day of battle. This is what I was saying earlier. You know, you're going to have these battles, but the Lord going to be very much involved in them. You know, people think God don't get involved in war. Look, ever since you had war, God pretty much has been involved in it.
That's right.
So now, it said, and his feet going to stand in that day up on the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem. Go ahead and read on.
Which is before Jerusalem on the east.
That is where the Mount of Olives is. It's on the east side of Jerusalem. Go ahead and read on.
And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yeah, ye shall flee, like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee.
So now we had a Lord coming, and then he coming to do battle here. That's what we just read, didn't it?
That's right.
Then the Lord going to fight against those nations as he fought in the day of battle. Let's go over to Jeremiah chapter 27 now. We're going to just look back a little bit. Jeremiah chapter 27. Jeremiah chapter 27. Just show you something here. You know, just show you how in the past, how the Lord raised up nations to fight against other nations. Jeremiah chapter 27. We're going to begin reading at verse 1. Now, what we just read there in Zechariah, that's actually the Lord fighting against the nation. I'm going to show you how the Lord in times past, how he raised up nations to fight against other nations, and he's going to even do that in these last days as well. Let's start reading here first at Jeremiah chapter 27, and we'll begin reading at verse 1. Jeremiah 27, and we'll start reading at verse 1. Go ahead and read, brother.
In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, came this word unto Jeremiah from the Lord, saying.
Now this is around the last of Israel's 3 kings that they had. And this is just before the Lord was about to send Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, down and take Judah out. So now, it said, in the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah. Go ahead and read on. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah saying. Go ahead and read it.
Thus said the Lord to me, make thee bonds and yokes, and put them upon thy neck, and send them to the king of Edom, and to the king of Moab, and to the king of the Ammonites, and to the king of Tyrus, and to the king of Zidon, by the hand of the messengers which come to Jerusalem unto Zedekiah the king of Judah.
Now, you know, these were Israel's neighbors. You know, all these nations, Ammon and Moab, and all these was Israel's neighbors here. So now the Lord said, Jeremiah, you send this unto these kings here, and tell them, thus said the Lord. Go ahead and read, and put this yoke up on their neck. Go ahead and read on.
And command them to say unto their masters, thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, thus shall you say unto your masters,
go ahead.
I have made the earth, the man and the beast that are upon the ground, by my great power and by my outstretched arm, and I have given it unto whom it seemed meet unto me.
Now the Lord said, you know, you go tell them that I made the earth and everything that is in it, and I have given these things unto whom it seemed right to me, or good to me to give them unto. They didn't take them, I gave it to them. Go ahead and read on.
And now have I given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon.
See what the Lord said? And now I have given all of these lands into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. I gave all these lands unto him. Go ahead and read on.
My servant.
And he is my servant. And when he says servant, he ain't talking about servant like we trying to serve God in right. He's talking about serving God in a different sense. So now, he said, now what did he call him? My servant, he said, didn't
That's
he?
right.
Nebuchadnezzar had his own little gods that he served. You understand what I'm saying? But nevertheless, he was the Lord's servant in the sense that he was going to do God's bidding. Go ahead and read on.
And the beast of the field have I given him also to serve him.
And not only did I give all these nations, but I also gave him the beast of the field to serve him, and Nebuchadnezzar's son still got him. Make no mistake about it. Go ahead and read on.
And all nations shall serve him, and his son, and his son's son, until the very time of his land come.
Go ahead.
And then many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of him.
Now he said all nations gonna serve him until, and his sons and his son's son, until the time of his land come. Then many nations gonna serve themselves of it. In other words, you know, all these nations gonna serve him till I decide that I'm gonna make him pay.
That's right.
It's a time appointed that he's gonna make Nebuchadnezzar pay. Now go ahead and read on.
And it shall come to pass that the nation and kingdom which will not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and that will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, saith the Lord.
See what the Lord said. Now anybody that don't bow down to Nebuchadnezzar, I'm going to punish that nation. Lord done set him up. You understand what I'm saying? And he said, all you nations got to serve him. And if you don't serve him, I'm going to punish you for not serving him. Go ahead and read on.
With the sword and with the famine and with the pestilence, until I have consumed them by his hand.
Now, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 29. Ezekiel chapter 29, and I'm going to show you what capacity that Nebuchadnezzar served the Lord in. Ezekiel chapter 29. And we began reading at verse 17. Ezekiel 29 and verse 17. 29 and 17. Okay. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass in the 27th year, in the first month, in the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus.
Now he said, see what the Lord said, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, he caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus. Go ahead and read on.
Every head was made bald, and every shoulder was peeled. Yet had he no wages, nor his army for Tyrus for the service that he had served against it.
So you know what the Lord is saying here. You know, I used Nebuchadnezzar to knock off Tyrus. And now he said, I didn't pay him for that. Now, you know, he done served me. He should be paid for it, right? You know, he done did a job for me. He had worked for me. Now he needs to be paid for that, and the Lord is going to pay him for it. Go ahead and read on. This is how the Lord is going to pay. But he said he served a great service, didn't he?
That's right.
In dealing on Tyrus for me. Go ahead and read on.
Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And he shall take her multitude, and take her spoil, and take her prey, and it shall be the wages for his arm.
And that is the way, that's how I'm going to pay him for doing what he did to me. I'm going to give him, I'm going to give unto him Egypt, and he's going to take her spoil and all of her goods. That is the wages that I'm going to pay Nebuchadnezzar for serving me. Go ahead and read on.
I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor wherewith he served against it.
I gave him the land of Egypt for his labor where he served against it. Go ahead and read on.
Because they wrought for me, said the Lord God.
Now he said, because they worked for me, said the Lord God. So now when Nebuchadnezzar came down and knocked off Egypt, he was doing it for the Lord God. When he knocked off Tyrus, rather, he was doing it for the Lord God, and the Lord rewarded him by giving him Egypt for that. That is his wages that God gave him for serving him. Let's go now to Jeremiah chapter 25. And we're going to pick it up at verse 9.